Hey everyone, welcome back to Stardust Cinema. I'm your host, Carrie. And for this video, I'm going to be talking about a movie that I just watched for the first time called The Adventures of Bullwhip Griffin. Now, apparently, I do not have enough movies in my personal DVD collection, so I have to go watch stuff on Disney Plus. Joking. Although I did watch this on Disney Plus, but I think I mentioned this in the first episode that I'm a big Mayberry fan, like a big Andy Griffith fan. Matter of fact, the shirt I have on right now, Mayberry Woman, which is from a movie that I worked on called Mayberry Man. Hopefully, at some point I'll talk to y'all more about that, but hopefully y'all are familiar with the Andy Griffith Show, one of the best shows of all time, like undisputed. Ran from 1960 to 1968. And you're going, why are you talking so much about the Andy Griffith Show when you're here to talk about the movie? Because one of the things that was so fun to me about this movie was that I recognized a lot of people from the Andy Griffith Show. So I'm going to read off a few names. I'm not going to name everybody. I'll name like characters I remember them from, but just a warning that one of these names I am going to list off, I'm terrible with pronunciation. I'm sorry. So I'm very likely to butcher this name. Apologies in advance. But this movie, as I said, was a 1967 film by Disney, Western comedy, starring Roddy McDowall. So that was fun. Susan Pelchette, I think is how you pronounce her name. She also played in The Ugly Dachshund with Dean Jones for Disney. Brian Russell. Now, one of the other names I'm going to list off here, the one that I'm like probably really going to butcher, Hermone Badley, or how do you pronounce her name? I recognize her as one of the maids. Like, she plays the housekeeper in this movie, but I recognize her as one of the maids from Mary Poppins. I'm sorry, my brain went blank for just a second. So there were several Disney regulars. Another one was Carl Malden, who played the preacher in Disney's Pollyanna. And I guess about anything I've ever seen him in, he's generally playing a preacher or something. The only role I could really remember seeing him in that he's not playing a preacher was How the West Was Won. And even then, he was like semi sort of like that. But he actually plays the bad guy in this movie. So that was really comical to see him in a completely different role. Another character that I recognized actually played Uncle Max in The Sound of Music. His name is Richard Hayden. But like I said, I grew up in love with The Sound of Music. So to see Uncle Max in this Western, I cracked up. So the premise of this movie is this gentleman has passed away and leaves great amounts of money to his staff, and then leaves the rest of his belongings to his two grandchildren, Arabella and Jack. And Roddy McDowall plays the butler for this family. Well, after the will is read, the lawyer lets them know, he wrote all of this, but he wasn't just living on borrowed time. He was living on borrowed money. So he was broke. So the house is in foreclosure, whatever else. So Jack, who is a 12-year-old boy, played by Brian Russell, runs away from Boston. They live in Boston, and he runs away to California to find his fortune in the gold rush, to provide for his sister, whatever. One of the first characters that I recognized from another TV show was when this young boy is trying to sneak onto this ship to stow away. Alvy Moore, that played Hank Kimball in Green Acres, was one of the people in that little situation there that buys a ticket and then gets it stolen from him. So that was a fun little recognizing someone. So when Jack is getting on this ship, he is joined by the I'm sorry, I can't remember character names right now, but by the gentleman that played Uncle Max in The Sound of Music, joins up with him in stowing away. Well, the butler, Griffin, comes after Jack and ends up just kind of sucked into this whole situation. So in order to pay for their passage, they work in the kitchen on the ship to go to California. They get to California and they set up, they're looking for this judge who stole a map, because the gentleman that stowed away with Jack has a map to the mother lode. He keeps calling it the mother lode. Well, the crook in this movie stole the map, and he is Judge Higgins. I do remember that name. So they are trying to find him to track this map down that he stole from them. So Griffin sets up cutting hair to make some money, like charging $10-15 a haircut, to make some money for them to get supplies they need to go out into the gold field. And several of the characters that I saw in this town, in this particular scene, I'm pulling up stuff so I make sure I don't forget it. But I mentioned that I saw several people that I recognized from the Andy Griffith show. If you're an Andy Griffith fan at all, you will remember A Feud is a Feud. It was one of the season 1 episodes where the Carters and the Wakefields were feuding against each other, and the kids wanted to get married. Well, both of the characters that played Mr. Carter and Mr. Wakefield are in this movie. Mr. Carter you see early in the movie, Mr. Wakefield you see later in the movie, but that was just really fun to see the two of them. Two other characters that I saw that actually are the ones that tell Griffin and Jack where they can find Judge Higgins. One of them played Roy Trindle, I believe, in Green Acres. And then the guy that is with him, I literally sent a picture of, like, a screenshot of this to a Mayberry friend of mine. I was like, who is this guy? Because I know him from something. I can't picture him. But his name was Shrug Fisher. And he was in a lot of Westerns, a lot with Roy Rogers. He was in Apple Dumpling Gang Rides Again, all this stuff. So it was, again, just really neat to see these people that I recognized. But anyway, so going back to the story, that they tell Jack and Griffin where they can find this gentleman. So they have become partners with the guy that owned the map, and they split up to find Mr. Higgins. Well, on their journey to find Mr. Higgins, the stagecoach that Griffin and Jack are on gets held up by a couple of Mexican bandits. Again, recognized one of them. I'll be honest, if I had not seen his name in the credits as to who he was going to be playing, I probably wouldn't have recognized him, just because he's all done up, like, beard, mustache, all this makeup and everything. But seeing the name, I was able to like recognize the voice and the mannerisms and stuff. But it was Joby Baker who played with my friend Ronnie Shell in Good Morning World. So it's like a small bit part, but again, it was just really neat to see somebody that I've recognized in that role. So they get held up. Turns out Judge Higgins is on that same stage. And he finally, after the bandits take all their, take their money, they even take their coats because they're like, people hide money inside their coats. So they take all their coats. So when Griffin confronts Higgins, Higgins is like, yeah, that map was sewn inside my coat, so they have it now, So Jack and Griffin leave the coach, and Higgins kind of figures out what they're doing, because Griffin is like, if they're not going to just travel around carrying a bunch of random coats. And if this map is sewn into the coat, it's very likely they're going to drop this coat off without realizing that there's a map in it. So Judge Higgins goes after them, and sure enough, they find the coat. Judge Higgins takes it away from them, so they're trying to find him again. And they get to, they keep trying to track him down, and they get to this one place. They finally find him, and he's literally about to get hung. Like, they got him strung up and he's about to get hung. So, but he is like, throughout the movie, he'll introduce himself as a judge, or in this particular case, he was acting as a dentist in this camp and whatever. So when Griffin saw what was going on, he like stuffed a rock in Jack's mouth, and they faked him having this toothache so they could, hold off on the hanging until, please just let him take care of this toothache, whatever. Well, two of the people there in that crowd, again, are from the Andy Griffith Show. Parley Bear, that played not Judge, I'm so sorry, Mayor Stoner, Stoner, Roy Stoner, yeah. He was in it, and also the old gentleman that played Judd. I believe his real name is Bert, but I'm honestly not the greatest always at remembering actors' names. So those two were in it in that scene as well. So they kind of helped save Judge Higgins' life right there at that particular moment. They get in a room where he's supposed to be pulling this tooth, whatever, and he basically promises them he'll give them the map if they will do their best to keep him alive. So they do, but it doesn't quite work out the way they were hoping it would. So the judge is about to get hung again, and Griffin and Jack are actually given the responsibility of digging his grave. Like, yeah. So while they're digging, they strike gold. Which actually kind of makes me think of Support Your Local Sheriff. I did not think of that until just now, but that actually kind of makes me think of Support Your Local Sheriff. But anyway, so they strike gold, and everybody just like runs off to, to where they found gold. Everybody's in a frenzy. Well, the judge is still strung up there, tied up on top of a horse. The horse takes off. It doesn't hang him. The rope like comes loose, so he's able to get away. So let me go back to this because I kind of missed a part. When they were in San Francisco, when they first arrived in San Francisco, and Griffin set up doing the haircuts, there is a tough guy in town, like kind of dumb, but really good with his fists type character, that threatens him pretty much if he does not give him a haircut. And he's already, heading out. He's like, I've shut down my business for the day. We're headed out, whatever. Well, Jack gets in on it. Well, in an attempt to save Jack, Griffin knocks out this guy. Well, Griffin is not a big guy, but he happened to have in his hand, they had taken the gold that they had been paid with and split it up. So he had a glove full of gold, which of course was heavy and hard. So he knocks this guy out with this glove. Well, the guy that owns the saloon makes Griffin a deal of, I'll put up a $2,000 purse if you will fight him, for the bare knuckle championship. Griffin doesn't do it. He's like, nope, we're on our way to the gold field, whatever. So they're coming back from the gold field at this point. When who do they run into disguised as a Chinaman this time, but Judge Higgins, and Griffin and Jack both end up overboard. They both had money belts with the gold in it, which of course is making them sink. So they have to drop the money belts in order to not drown. So they lose all their gold. Judge Higgins gets away again. And so when they get to San Francisco, when they come back from the goldfields and they get to San Francisco, they're broke, they're hungry. So they decide, you know what, the worst that can happen is we're going to go in somewhere, we're going to eat, and we're going to get thrown out. But at least we'll have been able to eat, So they go in the saloon because he's like, hey, if we're going to get thrown out, we're going to get thrown out of the best place in town. So they go eat at the Golden Nugget at the saloon. And so they go in, or they're like headed to go in, and this tough guy is throwing some people out. And of course, he recognizes Griffin, who by this point is going by the nickname Bullwhip Griffin, thanks to Jack. And so basically, Griffin gets trapped into possibly fighting him. So they go in, the owner's like, come on in, I'll fix you up, steak, dinner, whatever, invites them in. So they're sitting there, and all of a sudden there's an advertisement for the Boston Bell, and they thought it was a little weird, but they didn't think anything of it. Well, when this girl starts singing, all these guys like crowd in front of them so they can't see who's on stage. So Jack stands up in the chair to look over the crowd, and he's like, Griffin, that's Arabella, like, this is my sister here singing. So she has come to San Francisco and is working there at the saloon. And Griffin is not happy about that. We've been able to see, like, from the beginning of the movie that the two of them are interested in each other, but have never expressed that. So he is not very happy about the fact that the girl that he's in love with is singing in a saloon, and of course she's just kind of laughing it off. So in order to have the money to pay for her and her brother to go back to Boston, Bullwhip Griffin, agrees to fight this guy. He knows he's going to get clobbered, but he asks for $1,000 up front. So, but she and Jack refuse to go. So she is trying to help train him, and the whole thing is hilarious because, like, Roddy McDowell is not a big guy. Okay, he's like skinny, definitely not the tough guy. And so when the fight itself comes up, the guy that is kind of refereeing the fight is Mr. Wakefield from the Andy Griffith Show. And then another character that he's like really well known, Dub Taylor, but he was in the Andy Griffith Show as well. I think I could say one line, and my Mayberry friends would recognize who this character was, and it was the Master Criminals. Like, but I also love him as Houston Lamb in Little House on the Prairie. So it was just so neat to get to see all these people that I recognized from different things. So the fight is going on, and literally Griffin is like just trying to stay alive. So he is dancing all around, literally gets the ox, it was the guy's nickname, literally gets him dancing, like doing everything he can to just stay alive and to not get hit. He gets knocked out first round, and time's running out. He's about to have to get back out there, and they can't get him awake. So Arabella kisses him, which wakes him up. So he goes out there and does his thing. By chance of luck, happens to get the ox knocked out that time. I don't even honestly remember exactly how it happened, but so he does that. Well, then he ends up out again in the third round, but both of them are out at this point. Like the ox has hit his head on a wall or something and he's out, and Griffin is laying there on the floor and he's out, and each one of them have 1 minute to toe the line to win the round. So Arabella kisses him again in order to wake him up. Well, the owner of the saloon had made such outrageous odds for this fight, the bets on the fight. He's like, okay, let's get our money and get out of here, But what he doesn't realize is the cashier that he hired to help out that night is indeed none other than Judge Higgins, who, of course, at this point has put the gold in sacks on the donkey and is starting to leave. And his regular bartender catches him leaving with the money. A fire gets started. Mr. Higgins, tries to escape with the donkey. The donkey gets away from him, and he like runs in the jail and locks himself in just to save his life. And he was like, think about this. Could I run this fast with this gold on me? Like, I don't have it. And they were like, okay, where is it? And he was like, it's on the donkey. The donkey ran away. So the saloon is on fire. The town's trying to save the saloon. Doesn't accomplish that, obviously. But at this point, Arabella had won the saloon, like pretty much everything this guy owned. She had won it because of the bets that they had placed. So basically, this is what burned San Francisco to the ground, and they had to rebuild it. And the whole little sketch, like animation sketch at the end there, and of course the statue to Bullwhip Griffin is just really, really cute. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would probably give this one a 9 or a 10. Like it was a really, really cute movie. I think a lot of it for me was kind of nostalgia of seeing all these people that I recognized from other movies and TV shows. But I did feel like the movie was really good. The story was really good. It was very clean, good comedy, good physical comedy. I love physical comedy personally, so really good physical comedy. So yeah. Have you all ever seen this movie? Because I know I had not. Like I say, it was just one that I ran across on Disney Plus. I wasn't feeling good the other day and just ended up like scrolling through Disney Plus looking for something to watch and found that. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this episode. But I will be back soon with more Old Soul love for Old Hollywood. Bye, guys.